What would you do if you came home from surgery, stitches still fresh, pain meds barely working, and found your entire life sitting in trash bags on the curb? I'm not talking about a breakup. Not a landlord eviction notice. I'm talking about your family. Your mother. Your father. Your sister. Gone. But before we continue, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell for updates. When I was released from the hospital, I still had the wristband on. The nurse had warned me not to lift anything heavier than a gallon of milk. My abdomen burned every time I stood up straight. Emergency gallbladder removal, they said. You'll need 2 weeks of rest, they said. Rest. That's funny. The Uber dropped me off at 4:12 p.m. I remember the time because I was staring at my phone, texting my sister Danielle to let her know I was 5 minutes away. No response. I stepped out slowly, one hand bracing my stomach. And that's when I saw it. Black contractor trash bags. 6 of them. Sitting on the curb like oversized garbage waiting for pickup. My purple comforter stuffed into one. My shoe rack tipped over beside another. A framed photo of me at 12 years old, glass cracked. The curtains in the house were gone. The porch light fixture had been removed. And my key didn't fit the lock anymore. I just stood there. Stitches pulling. Heart pounding so hard I thought something else inside me might rupture. I called my mom. Straight to voicemail. I called my dad. Ring. Ring. Then silence. Then I called Danielle, my 34-year-old big sister, the one who held my hand before surgery and told me, "Don't worry. We've got you." She answered. Her voice was calm. Too calm. "You're not our problem anymore, Elena." Click. Not our problem. I was 29 years old. I paid $800 a month toward that mortgage. I covered groceries. I managed the electric bill. I had just trusted them enough to let Danielle handle my hospital paperwork while I was being prepped for anesthesia. And here I was. Drugged. Displaced. Disposable. But the part that didn't make sense? This wasn't impulsive. It was organized. Planned. Executed while I was unconscious. And over the next year, they would call me 247 times. Because something went wrong. But what I discovered about what they did while I was under anesthesia, that's what really changed everything. 3 days before my surgery, everything felt normal. That's the part that still messes with my head. We had dinner together. My mom, Patricia, 58, complaining about the price of avocados. My dad, Luis, 61, watching the news too loudly from the living room. Danielle scrolling on her phone, half listening, half smirking at something she wouldn't share. Normal. I transferred my usual $800 contribution to the mortgage that Friday. Like clockwork. I even paid the water bill early because I knew I'd be recovering for a couple weeks. If they were planning to erase me, they didn't show it. The morning of surgery, Danielle drove me to St. Mary's Medical Center. She filled out forms while I sat there in that flimsy hospital gown, trying not to cry from the pain. Emergency gallbladder inflammation isn't subtle. It's sharp. Constant. Unforgiving. "Just sign here," she said at one point, sliding a clipboard toward me. I didn't read it carefully. I trusted her. She was my sister. Have you ever signed something because you assumed the person handing it to you loved you? Anesthesia hits fast. One moment you're staring at ceiling tiles. The next, hours are gone. When I woke up, Danielle was there again. Smiling. Soft voice. "Everything's fine." But 3 days later, when I came home to those trash bags, something clicked. This wasn't chaotic. It was timed. While I was unconscious, they were moving. After Danielle hung up on me that afternoon, I sat on the curb next to my life in garbage bags. My incision throbbed. I needed my medication. The prescription bottle was inside the house. Or gone. I tried the back door. New lock. I walked around to the side gate. Padlocked. That's when my neighbor, Mr. Klein, 72, stepped out to get his mail. He looked at me, then looked away. "They said you knew," he muttered quickly before disappearing inside. "They said I knew." Knew what? I ripped open one of the trash bags. Clothes thrown in without folding. My laptop missing. My passport missing. My birth certificate gone. This wasn't just eviction. This was extraction. I called Danielle again. This time she answered on the second ring. "We sold the house," she said flatly. "What do you mean you sold the house?" I asked. "You're not on the deed, Elena. You never were." My stomach dropped harder than it had on the operating table. "But I paid." "You paid rent." "Rent." And then she said the sentence that would haunt me for months. "You should have read what you signed." Signed what? Because I hadn't signed anything about a house. At least, I didn't think I had. And that's when I went digging. But what I found in those hospital documents would make the trash bags look like the least of my problems. Turns out, anesthesia doesn't just knock you out. It can open doors you didn't even know were there. The night I ended up sleeping in a cheap roadside motel. Stitches burning, body aching, brain racing, I logged into my hospital patient portal. I needed proof. Something. Anything. There it was. Intake forms. Consent forms. Standard procedure. And then I saw it. A scanned document labeled, Medical Power of Attorney. Signed by me. Witnessed by Danielle Ramirez. My heart started pounding so hard I had to sit down. I don't remember agreeing to that. But it got worse. Attached to the same upload was something titled Financial Authorization Addendum. Same date. Same signature. Mine. Have you ever stared at your own signature and not recognized the moment it was written? I zoomed in. It was shaky. Slightly slanted. Like someone signing while in pain. Or medicated. The addendum granted temporary financial authority during medical incapacitation. Incapacitation. That word felt sharp. The next morning, I checked my bank account, the joint one I shared with my mom for convenience, when I first moved back home at 26. Balance, $312.47. 3 days earlier, $12,784. Withdrawn in increments. Clean. Precise. Legal under the authorization. I called the bank. "Ma'am, the cosigner had full access." Cosigner. I had added my mom years ago to help her build trust with the lender when they refinanced the house. Refinanced. That word echoed. So I searched the county property records online. The house had been listed for sale 2 weeks before my surgery. 2 weeks. That means when Danielle drove me to the hospital. The for sale sign was already planned. The house closed escrow the day after my operation. While I was waking up groggy and grateful to be alive, they were signing final sale documents. I called the realtor listed on the public record, Mark Jensen, 42. "Oh," he said cautiously. "Your sister handled everything. She mentioned you were moving out." Moving out? Nobody told me we were selling. Then came the final blow. 2 years earlier, during a refinance crisis, I had co-signed paperwork to help secure better rates. I thought I was helping. In reality, my credit had been tied to a sinking mortgage. They were behind on payments, facing foreclosure. And instead of telling me, they waited. Waited until I was unconscious. Waited until I couldn't object. Waited until legally, temporarily, they had my signature under medical authority. This wasn't panic. This was strategy. And then, months later, after silence, the calls started. 1, 5, 12. Voicemails. Missed calls. Late-night hang-ups. By the end of the year, there would be 247 of them. Because something had gone very wrong with their plan. And when I finally found out what it was, I almost laughed. But not for the reason you'd think. Exactly 364 days after I stood on that curb with stitches in my abdomen and my life in trash bags, my phone lit up again. Call number 247. By then, I was different. You have to understand something. I didn't collapse after they erased me. I recalibrated. I moved into a 2-bedroom apartment with a roommate named Tasha Brooks, 31. Single mom. Night shift nurse. She didn't ask invasive questions. She just handed me a heating pad and said, "You'll land." I picked up extra hours at the dental clinic. Took on weekend reception shifts. Ate cheap. Saved aggressively. I froze my credit. Opened new accounts in my name only. Closed every joint tie I could legally sever. Therapy once a week. Do you know what betrayal does? It doesn't just hurt. It clarifies. I stopped answering their calls around month 3. But they didn't stop dialing. At first, the voicemails were defensive. "You're overreacting." Then they shifted. "We had no choice." Then softer. "Please call us." And then, desperate. Around month 10, curiosity got the best of me. I checked county property records again. The new buyer had defaulted. The house was back in pre-foreclosure. And guess who had co-signed a secondary refinance before the sale closed? Danielle. She had leveraged the sale equity into another financial gamble. And it collapsed. Her job at a regional marketing firm? Laid off during budget cuts. My dad retired earlier than expected after a minor stroke. Medical bills stacking. Mom's health declining. And here's the twist. Without my credit anchoring things, they were drowning. That's when call 247 came in. I answered. Danielle's voice wasn't calm this time. It cracked. "We made mistakes," she said. "We thought you'd be fine. You always figure things out. Always. Isn't that interesting? The strong one in the family becomes the safety net. We need you to come home," she continued. "Just temporarily. We can refinance again. With your help." There it was. Not apology. Not accountability. Access. They didn't miss me. They missed my stability. That night, I drove past the old house. Foreclosure notice taped to the front window. Grass overgrown. Dark inside. And sitting in my car, watching the place that once felt permanent crumble, I realized something. They needed me again. But I didn't need them. The question wasn't whether I would answer call 248. The question was who I had become in the silence between 1 and 247. And what I said next would close this chapter for good. Call 248 came the next morning. I let it ring twice. 3 times. Then I answered. No shaking hands this time. No tight chest. Just quiet. "Elena." Danielle's voice was small. Careful. Like she was stepping across thin ice. "Yes." Silence stretched between us. For a second, I almost remembered who we used to be. 2 sisters sharing a bedroom. Whispering at night. Passing notes in school. But that memory didn't match the paperwork. "We really need you," she said finally. "If you co-sign, just temporarily, we can stabilize everything. Dad's health. Mom's bills. We're family." Family. Funny how that word disappears when it's inconvenient. I looked around my small apartment. Second-hand couch. Foldable dining table. Quiet. Stable. Mine. "You told me I wasn't your problem anymore," I said evenly. "That's not what I meant." "It is exactly what you meant." She started crying then. Soft at first. Then harder. "We thought you'd land on your feet," she admitted. "You always do." There it was again. Strength mistaken for obligation. I thought about that curb. The trash bags. The cracked photo frame. The missing medication. The way my stitches pulled as I bent down to salvage what I could of myself. "I read the paperwork this time," I told her. Silence. "I froze my credit months ago. Closed every joint account. Filed alerts. There's nothing left in my name for you to use." Her breathing changed. Not sadness. Shock. "So that's it," she whispered. "That's it. No yelling. No revenge speech. Just a boundary." When the call ended, I didn't feel powerful. I felt finished. Later that night, my mom left a voicemail. "We never thought you'd actually leave," she said softly. That sentence sat with me. They never thought I'd leave. They thought I'd absorb it. Fix it. Fund it. Forgive it. But sometimes the worst day of your life, the day you come home from surgery and find your world in trash bags, is the day you stop being available for extraction. They said I wasn't their problem anymore. They were right. I wasn't. So let me ask you, would you have gone back? Would you have signed again? Or would you have answered call 248 the way I did? If this story hit something in you, share it. Comment what you would have done. And remember, read everything before you sign it. Because sometimes the signature that changes your life is the one you never realized you gave.